of how the results of the ORAF and the connection with what their sentence is.
Yeah, I mean, you can speak to that too. I don't think that it'll be used in sentencing decisions per se. It's going to be more likely to be in terms of, once they come into the system, what's going to happen to them as they progress through.
That is a dicey issue. And depending on if there's a liberty interest at stake, and we're using predictive tools in the courts, and all this is a predictive of the likelihood of reoffending, and you fall into a grouping that has a higher or lower likelihood of that can be problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And if though we are encouraging the courts not to send low-risk offenders to prison, if there are community-based options, and ORAS suggests not only that they are lower risk, but there are needs areas, chronogenic needs areas that they have that need to be addressed, then that's the value we see in the tool. But I think also you will have offenders will learn how to game this system.
Yeah.
And staff know that the higher the score, the more demanding the expectations on case management. So all of this has always been almost an inherent part of any risk assessment process over time. And it'll have to be addressed and monitored in terms of quality assurance.
In that too, that in a practical sense, probation staff and pretrial staff already inform courts regarding sentencing decisions and the decisions from the bench. This better informs those decisions. So, that's happening day in and day out. And this should actually enhance their knowledge to better inform and make better informed decisions. So I don't think you're going to walk in the legal waters of any problem. To be honest with you.
I think that I definitely, I definitely support the use of this. I guess this shouldn't be the only part of the assessment, because you need, the clinician still needs to include other parts of the assessment. Because this could be someone that, has a personality disorder and is aware of, this and of the scoring and things like that.
Absolutely, and an important part of any risk assessment system is to have a mechanism in place for professional override. So, and it should be used relatively infrequently, for example, less than 10% of the time, certainly. But yeah, the evidence does consistently show that the risk assessments that do the best are ones that have the ability for professional override. This one does as well. I mean, there will be a mechanism in place for that to happen. And then what Ed mentioned, what needs to be in place are, of course, the checks and quality assurance and so forth to make sure they're not being overused or that they're being used appropriately and so forth. So, but yeah, that is an important point for certain. So. And there, it doesn't, for example, assess mental health in detail, but it would flag somebody if they needed to go for more in-depth mental health assessment screening. So you're absolutely right in the sense that in certain areas or in certain domains, what it will do is probably point to the need to do further assessment. Substance abuse is another great example. You can tell it's a criminogenic need area and important for case planning, but then they likely need to do a more domain-specific full assessment to get a really good handle on all of the dynamics of that. So it can and should and will be used, in conjunction with that. So, yeah.
I assume from the way you're talking, this is designed only for adult offenders?
This one is, yep. But I should note that the DYS has embarked on a similar type project, and so they also are at a similar stage of, we've developed instruments for them. They're implementing a risk assessment system that it's different in some ways, but it's also similar and based on juveniles in Ohio.
It is also through University of Cincinnati.
We did that study too, yeah.
Yeah, because you think that for continuity of services, that would be really critical to have that there. So, you're talking a lot about having this using the same language. It really is pointless if the juvenile system uses one and then they cruise right on in, as it happens in switch the language. Good, glad you're.
Actually, we're a little annoyed. We think DYS may be a few steps ahead of us.
I think you might be.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
I don't need to horse you up and say something different.
Yep. And so I'm actually, given the time, I'm just going to flip through to, I have all the details from the data collection, but I have a little summary slide here that will just give you a sense of an overview. There we go. Of what's on it and how the different assessment tools kind of are related. And so it gives you an idea of how many items are on each instrument and the number of variables would reflect the number of items. Outcomes predicted, so we'll tell you sort of give you an indication of what outcome may be collected at each of these stages, and then what domains are actually included on each of the tools. You'll see that there's a tremendous amount of similarity, and not surprisingly, given what we know about risk and need. And so I'm gonna, I think, in the interest of time, leave it at that and let you ask any questions that you might like to.
Is there a website or something we can look at this more closely? Or? Because like right here that I see it.
No, I think we could send out information. We don't have a website yet that we can speak to this.
So is there somewhere we can sign up for this and have information?
DD cards and that you said.
Yeah,
why don't we do that? And I can send you the PowerPoint.
We can look for it in detail.
And I'll send you, we can send you the PowerPoint, and we can send you this, well, that's part of the PowerPoint. And there's other information we can send.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Let's do our we are concluded with our session. There's a 15-minute break until the next session. Your program should tell you where you are if there's a particular session you're looking for, something you're interested in. The green track, or the track that is related to corrections and reentry programs, are in this room. So this may be a room that you stay in, but if there's something else that you'd like to see, you've got 15 minutes to find that room. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of the day.
How are you?